Hi and welcome. I'm Steve Martirano, and this is the Behavioral Corner. You're invited to hang with us as we discuss the ways we live today, the choices we make, the things we do, and how they affect our health and well-being. So you're on the corner, the Behavioral Corner. Please hang around a while. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Behavioral Corner again. Hanging with me, Steve Martirano. I do this occasionally. Isn't it great? I get to hang on a corner and meet interesting people. The Behavioral Corner is brought to you in conjunction with our great underwriting partners, Retreat Behavioral Health, about which more later. So what's behavioral health? Real quickly, it's everything. That's what this podcast is about. Behavioral health is the decisions we make, the lives we lead, choices, and how it all impacts our mental, physical, even spiritual well-being. So it's a big topic, and we try to hit a lot of different notes on that scale. What we're bringing you in this episode of The Corner is one in a series of programs that we are running between May and June that have to do very specifically with raising awareness about the dangers of the drug fentanyl. Very briefly, if you have not been keeping track here, fentanyl is, and this is not a scientific discussion, and my guest will correct me, is a synthetic opioid. It has very legitimate pain management and treatment benefits. It is exponentially more powerful than morphine and heroin, and has inundated the illegal drug market in a number of ways, the results of which have been an exponential growth in the number of deaths as a result of many times people not knowing what they've ingested. You'll find out how scary this thing is and how we're all stakeholders in learning more about the dangers of fentanyl. So that's what these programs are about. You'll hear a couple more before very long. Today, we welcome a couple of people who are separated by thousands of miles, but brought together very significantly over the issue of fentanyl. They both have experienced, as tens of thousands of other people, the horrifying effects of this drug, having both lost children to fentanyl. Marlyse Williams joins us from the west coast of Canada and from the heartland of America, Ohio, the Buckeye State. Jim Rauh, I got it right, Jim?
Rauh, yes.
Jim Rauh join us. They are meeting each other for the first time here on the corner, so that's kind of nice. And they both look how wonderful my guests look. It's amazing, isn't it? I almost wish I didn't have my pajamas on as I was sitting here. But anyway, thank you guys for showing up, and I look forward to hearing your stories. Can we begin with how you arrived at this point? Because I know you both are dedicated to raising awareness of the dangers of fentanyl. Marlyse, tell us about your situation.
Well, I'm the mother of Logan Williams, who was actually a successful actor. He was most notably known for the TV show The Flash, playing the young Barry Allen. And he unfortunately, tragically lost his life on April 2nd, 2020 to fentanyl poisoning. So, of course, that changed really the trajectory of my entire life and journey and path to trying to help others and prevent deaths from occurring. I had heard about fentanyl prior to Logan's death, but I think most people don't think it's going to affect their family because we think that it's going to be, that fentanyl is like for hardcore addicts, syringe users on the street, and that's really not what's happening. It's affecting all family, not all families, but many, and it's very scary. It's playing Russian roulette with your life.
Yeah. Jim, your situation is very much similar. I mean, tell us about it, and also explain a little bit about what Marlyse just mentioned about a real paradigm shift about what we're talking about here.
My son Tom was poisoned in 2015 with a lethal dose of acetyl fentanyl that would have killed 100 people. It was sent over from the drug trafficking organization in China, the Zhang drug trafficking organization. The great police work that was done traced that evidence all the way back to the perpetrators in China through the drug dealer in Akron. And the Justice Department went over and prosecuted the drug manufacturers in China in 2018 for his murder. They brought the Zhangs forward. Our whole Justice Department went over there and put a case on against the Zhang drug trafficking organization. They deliberated for 15 minutes and then set the Zhangs free. And our men came back with nothing after being in the Ministry of Justice for 3 days prosecuting these men. 60 Minutes went over and filmed the Zhangs walking free in a supermarket and confronted Dr. Zhang and his wife and said, "What do you say to the parents of these children you're killing in the United States?" And at that time, he was accosted by the Chinese secret police and escorted out of China, never to return. The indictment that was brought against the Zhangs stated that they were capable in making 16 metric tons of fentanyl a month. They were shipping that over here in mass quantities. If they'd have sold 1 gram of that material to one of their countrymen, they would have been publicly executed in China. But they were free to go ahead and mass produce this material in China, send it over here through the mail. And now they are purportedly working with the CJNG cartels in Mexico, according to Fortress Risk Management, and shipping this material over in mass quantities. They purportedly have a reactor that's capable of making over 10,000 pounds a day. It's more than enough to kill us all.
The manufacturers of these drugs and others, as we know, seem to think that they have little responsibility. After all, we're talking about a black market use of a legitimate product. So what responsibility do they have over that? We know it's a monstrous...
First of all, this is not a legitimate product. It has not gone through any pharmaceutical type of testing or running or anything.
Oh, is that right?
This is a chemical. Simply a chemical.
Okay, one at a time. Oh, all right.
It's completely different than the medical grade fentanyl that you find in the hospital, like the lollipops, et cetera, the pain.
No, I just wanted to make the point that there is a legitimate use for this drug when it's properly handled and everybody knows what they're getting.
Pharmacologically.
Yeah, there's two different. This is illicit street fentanyl that's actually made by China for the sole purpose to take out North American youth. And it is a war against our people. We are in a war and we don't even know it. That's what's so scary about what's happening. Mm-hmm. Because, the Chinese government, it's a very rogue dictatorship. And there has been a lot of documented evidence. Globe and Mail did a wonderful piece where they actually went to China. And the Chinese government actually gives tax incentives, write-offs and benefits to these huge illicit fentanyl makers. It's truly disgusting.
How let's talk about the spread of this thing. There are people who abuse substances that actually look for fentanyl because it's a more potent drug for them. They are at risk from their substance abuse disorder in general. We're talking about something monstrously larger. This drug is being used in a counterfeit way, and it has infected almost everything that constitutes not just street drugs, but drugs. Jim, what are some of the areas that we know fentanyl has shown up in, and what is the result of that?
Fentanyl's infiltrated the approximately $250 billion a year illicit drug supply. It's now making up over 25% of that full drug supply. So we're paying, 50 billion or so dollars to the cartels for poison that's killing our young adults. This is being done with malice, the slow motion poisoning of our population.
Isn't it true, to show you how insidious this thing is and how dangerous for everyone? Isn't it true that everything from marijuana to diet pills to ecstasy is now potentially laced with fentanyl?
Marijuana it's shown up in marijuana in a few places in New England. That hasn't become fully pervasive, but it's shown up in everything from fake Xanax pills, Percocets, ecstasy. It's being laced into cocaine. Almost all the meth is contaminated with it. This has been placed in every single, even fake Tylenol pills have shown up with this. It's shown up in things that look like children's candy. And it's now, because of its prevalence in the United States, is starting to kill infants through incidental contact in a major way. That's how prevalent the materials become in our society. And it's infiltrated every part of the illicit drug supply except for marijuana, and it's already starting in there. It's showing up in vape pens, in schools, everywhere, in all forms of transportation. And this is an extremely dangerous situation that we find ourselves in.
And evidence of this is clear. The number of overdose deaths rose exponentially during the last couple of years. And certainly some of that can be attributed to any number of other things, but there's no way around noticing that many people don't suddenly begin to die unless a new element has been added to the scenario. Is it that way? I know it is in the United States and other. What's the situation in Canada?
It's exactly the same. Actually, in fact, Canada, we have such a direct connection with China, with our government, and 55% of the people in Vancouver are Asian, and we actually got fentanyl before it hit the USA, and so we started having early on deaths, 2012, 2013, and prior to that, I think the problem with the whole drug issue, right, epidemic, is we're treating it with the old paradigm. We're treating it the way we used to treat all of this. That with fentanyl, we can't do it like this. But I was going to mention that with the fentanyl coming in, it goes unchecked. Our borders and our ports. So we have the largest port in Canada and the second largest in North America. And imagine we have no port police. We have no port. So if you look at a similar city, the size and the way it is laid out, like Seattle, they have 180 dedicated port police and dogs to their. So imagine all the unchecked containers with the unchecked drugs, unchecked guns, unchecked money laundering, and it just gets spread right into the streets of Vancouver. And so we actually per capita have the highest fentanyl deaths in the world at 5. Well, it's now at 7 per day. And it's young people like my child who was 16 years old. I run a grief group, and imagine in December, a wonderful couple came in and they just lost their 13-year-old, and the sister gave him a pill to calm him down because he was anxious about a test, and it killed him. And she ordered it on Snapchat. She thought she meant well. Now she's 16-year-old sister. So this is a freight train, and it's lost, it's off the tracks, and it is literally going into every little neighborhood, every big city, every type of socioeconomic, single parent, 2-parent. It can be any type of kid, and that's what's so scary is people think, oh, that would never hit me, because we have this old mindset of addicts, and that my kid isn't an addict. But guess what? Your kid doesn't have to be an addict to die of fentanyl poisoning.
Jim, is that paradigm with the emphasis on substance abuse disorder a major problem in raising awareness about fentanyl? Not that that's not a discredited operator. I mean, SUD is an important tool for people who need substance abuse treatment. But has it obscured this problem?
Families Against Fentanyl went through the CDC data, our staff,
Mhm.
and found that it's the #1 killer of Americans between the ages of 18 and 45. That information wasn't released by the US government. That was just in the CDC data. We had to discern that. And as far as exponential growth, it doubled in the United States in 2 years. That's a doubling, and it appears that it's going to double again in 1. We can't get the granular CDC data in order to determine what's going on, but by looking at the uptick in juvenile deaths, this situation in this 1 year alone has gone from 18 to 45-year-olds. Now it appears it's 13 to 50-year-olds, the #1 killer of all of these people. So the demographic is growing, the deaths are growing exponentially, and under physics, just under physics, this material will go from distribution to dispersion by entropy no matter what. And as the prevalence go up, the death is going up by incidental contacts and everything else. And if you add a malevolent force to that, it can only get worse. It can only be distributed broader, further, and in more insidious ways. Remember, we're feeding them billions of dollars to do this to us.
Let's talk about, beyond the obvious, raising awareness. Let's talk about some of the goals of the group, of your individually, and the groups that you guys are a part of. Jim, you mentioned, I guess, earlier before we got on the air, that you have a specific goal in mind with this drug. What is it?
My background is in polymer science, and fentanyl is made from basic petrochemicals, and it can be made extremely cheaply in almost any environment, even with the advent of new benchtop continuous flow reactors. There's no place that they can't make it. Our objective is to have fentanyl designated a weapon of mass destruction by the United States government, so we can cut off the supply before it gets here. Right now, it's like they're trying to, turn off a flood, one bucketful at a time, when nobody can get to the source of it, and just turn the valve off and shut it off at its source. Because once it gets here and it's broken up, it's too potent, too powerful, and it's too easy to transport. Once the material is combined with some way of dispersion, its lethality goes crazy. It becomes totally transdermal in certain solvents. And of course, when you solvate it, all the fumes become extremely dangerous. The ability to impregnate this into paper or fabric or clothing allows it to be transported into any secure environment and then lit on fire, smoked, or exposed in various ways. And of course, just in a crude, simple device like a pressure cooker bomb or Timothy McVeigh nitrogen, fertilizer bomb type of thing in Oklahoma City. Either one of those that were contained fentanyl would have had mass casualty events.
Yeah,
so this is a threat at little level right now, in slow motion, or it can be spread in mass casualty events.
Yeah, that's an eye-opening proposition, that you would take this specific drug and try to get it designated as a WMD. What would be the effect of that? Let's say it happened tomorrow.
If it happened tomorrow, we would be able to mobilize our military and our intelligence. But first of all, we'd be able to seize all their bank accounts. It breaks the Foreign Sovereign Immunity Act, and you can hold foreign governments that are harboring these criminals accountable for their actions. You can seize their money in almost any place. It enables you to track their money. It enables you to track them. It enables you to stop ships at sea, and it calls for an all-of-government response from the National Guard through the military, all police forces, to coordinate and put an end to this, including the FBI, CIA, and the rest of them. The heads of Homeland Security, the former heads of the CIA and the FBI have all signed a letter to the president on our website asking for it to be declared a weapon of mass destruction, because they know that this is the one way that we can reduce supply. The biggest part of harm reduction is supply reduction. What it does is it drives up the cost immediately. You drive up the price of the material, so it's not 50 cents a hit. It becomes so incredibly more expensive to make. We can go back to heroin. At least that's sustainable. This is a poison of incredible potency, and its ease of transportation and its handleability make it a weapon of mass destruction. It's already known as one by the military. They're called pharmaceutical-based agents, PBAs. Carfentanil was used in the Moscow theater to kill the Chechen rebels, and it killed a bunch of the hostages also. They weren't able to
then what's the difficulty in getting this drug classified as a weapon of mass destruction?
The chemical should be, and one of them is already by the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, the OPCW, is carfentanil. They found 21 kilograms of carfentanil, of pure carfentanil, in Riverside, California this year. Late last year. It's enough to kill 500 million people in one canister. You don't need to be 100% effective. You can be 1,000% effective with that potency.
Yeah.
You put this in the water or something, or the air, it's a threat to all of us.
You mentioned harm reduction in passing there. Marlyse, let me ask you, in addition to everything Jim's just said about goals and raising awareness, do you believe that part of your efforts and your goals are to reduce harm in the sense that you can't help people who might have a problem if they're dead? Does harm reduction factor into what you're thinking about?
Well, I mean, addiction is, it's an approach. You need a multifaceted approach and there's many moving elements to addiction and etc. But at the Fentanyl Awareness Coalition, we are more about trying to raise funds for the government to give us money so that we can really hit home and say to everyone, one pill, one time, fentanyl kills, so that it goes in your head when you're little watching that. I just thought of something when with COVID, we had within 2 weeks, all our countries were shut down. If 3-year-olds were wearing a mask, they had commercials every 5 minutes. This COVID. Why aren't we doing that with fentanyl? We have more deaths with fentanyl than COVID related in my country, and it's all, no one even mentions fentanyl. The government there's not one commercial on, hey, be careful, or like really reaching out to kids and to say, hey, because a lot of kids taking what they think when they order a Xanax on Snapchat, right. They think it is a Xanax, and they had no clue about fentanyl, and then they're dead the next day, and the poor parents. It's just so disgusting. So I think that we need to really drive home major awareness to put that kind of like bell in someone's ear. Maybe if they see it enough, they might, when the time is, they might go, you know what, I'm not taking a pill if it's not prescribed to me by a doctor.
We're right back to first principles, I think, at some point. Remember, in my lifetime, in our lifetime, just say no seemed to be the magic formula for protecting young people from drugs, and everybody sort of went, nah, it's not going to work. And it didn't. But now we're literally, with the ubiquitous nature of this drug and the dangers inherent in it, you really do get back to a first principle, which is, listen, if you don't know with metaphysical certainty what you're about to ingest, don't do it. And it's not a moral, we're not telling you you'll be a bad person if you make that mistake. We'll tell you you'll be a dead person. So we're really back to that first principle. It's interesting. Jim, I want to get on this.
FAF participates with I'm a Force for Change organization, where we're working on education for schools.
Right.
We're trying as hard as possible to make the students responsible for each other. So they're a force for change. So they look out for each other. Hey, don't take that pill. Hey, I'm looking out for you at this party. We're not going to do that. Let's be aware of what the risks are. What are they trying to get us to do?
There's no margin of,
if we do it.
And there's no margin of error, none.
Right. There's
let me-
nothing. There's nothing like we had where we could go try whatever type of experiments. And everybody knows growing up, you want to take risks. I take risks even now. I'm still getting a little crazy. But who doesn't want to go super fast or dive off the cliff or let's go try this adventure. So what if it's dark out? We'll see what happens.
That risk reward stop and go function of the brain is not particularly well developed when you're 17, 16, 15 years old. Jim Rauh is our guest. He joins us from Canada. From Ohio. And Marlyse Williams from Canada on this issue of fentanyl awareness. Just this one point about harm reduction. And I know it may seem ancillary, but it's not to what you're talking about. I mentioned before we went on the air here that I'm embarrassed to admit that I did not know there were something called a fentanyl test strip, which you can purchase, and then it will tell you the level of fentanyl in whatever you're taking. And I thought, well, that's great. That should be available in vending machines, every drugstore, every street corner. And I found out that while it's available in some places, it's illegal in other places. Isn't that frustrating, Jim? Isn't that counterproductive?
Oh, of course it's counterproductive. They count it as paraphernalia. They look at it like you're just making sure that you have fentanyl in your material. There's some really great awareness things that are breaking out. TACO organization, Trojan Awareness, out of USC, and they're a college group that has gone from colleges to make awareness, so they can have different cards they call if they're going to use something. They can find a test strip somewhere so they don't get killed. People have compulsions, and especially addicts. And they're trying not to do something as hard as possible, and then something bends their will or their compulsion overcomes, or they just decide that it's worth the ride. It's not worth dying over. They're beloved. They're productive. They're great people with a disease that's based on amygdala responses and all types of different psychological keys that are both physical and mental that they don't want to have. Nobody wants to, be taking fentanyl to make themselves feel better. And it's so amazingly addictive that it breaks down that barrier to addiction so incredibly fast. And its onset is extremely quick, but the material wears off super fast. You don't have that long a ride, so your desire to have more is needed right away. It's a nightmare. A total nightmare and addiction.
Do either of you know, again, tell us what the effect of Narcan is in a situation like this? Can Narcan reverse a fentanyl overdose?
It can reduce a fentanyl overdose if they're not too super overdosed.
Mm-hmm.
Even then, it can cause respiratory and brain damage.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shots of Narcan to even come out of it. So it depends how much fentanyl you have in your system for Narcan to work. And of course, Narcan has to be administered immediately. Otherwise, you can't do it. You're going to have a deceased victim again. So
and it depends on your tolerance. And it depends on which analog of fentanyl.
Yep.
Exactly.
Carafentanyl is 100 times stronger than regular fentanyl. And then acetylfentanyl is not reversible by Narcan. This stuff is just incredibly easy to manipulate and make more and more powerful.
Well, you guys have made the threat abundantly clear. The numbers speak for themselves in terms of deaths. Your losses are tragic, obviously. For people listening who are now alert to this problem, maybe they're now even worried. What can they do on a grassroots level? Marlyse, what can I do in my community besides wring my hands and say, gee, this is terrible? What can we do?
Well, I think just having a conversation. I mean, it depends. If you have an addict in your immediate family, you really know. If you're just a parent of 2 teenagers who have no clue about fentanyl, it's important that you do inform yourself and know that this is a risk in it. So for instance, if you are that parent with 2 teenagers, or a teenager, what have you. I think it's really important to have a very, very intricate discussion that this can, one pill, you can die. And so I think a lot of kids, they think it's not going to happen to me, but I think it's important to let your kid know that, that you can come to them, and it's important to have that dialogue with your kid, and not, because otherwise that's the problem with the under 19 users, is they don't want to even get caught. So the parents don't even know that they've ordered an ecstasy on Snapchat or any of those social media platforms. So I think it's very important to have that open and honest relationship, which of course starts, when they're toddlers. So, but I think having this just keep talking about, having discussion. And I like to hit home that this is, the paradigm shift. This is new. You should be worried. This is not, we all think that, like I said, we all think that, oh, well, my kid's not an addict, and it's not, those days are over. You don't need to be an addict to die of fentanyl poisoning.
Jim, people who get aroused, even from the comfort of their living room, generally go, well, I'll write a letter, or I'll make a phone call. Who do they write the letter to? Who do they make the phone call to?
They can go on Families Against Fentanyl and sign our petition, which we're presenting to the president. They should be active in their churches. If they have a United Way, they should be active with them. They can talk to their mayors or their local politicians to raise public awareness. There should be public service announcements on radio and television upon request. That they have open space for those types of things, so organizations can go to them and ask for their time to make the public aware that this material is infiltrating every aspect of society, and it's going to jump from the illicit drug supply to possibly the food supply. It's already started to show up in small, packed along with food. Imagine if this material starts showing up in the food supply, there won't be enough test strips in the world to go around. And
Jim,
then,
Rauh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jim.
It's just a matter of how it's being dispersed to create more and more addicts, to break the hearts of the people. Remember, this is killing people of fighting age without even having to fire a bullet, and the grief that goes along with it is just hidden by the shame of, oh, I feel so bad. I'm a bad parent for not taking care of my kid. Sisters and brothers won't admit to whatever. People hide it, and the stigma keeps it all real quiet. So you have this mass destruction without buildings being blown up or bridges falling down. But it's like a plane load of college kids getting ready to go on spring break, of 250 of them in an airplane, and it crashes every single day. Every single day, and the plane blows up, and it's all these innocent people in there. And that's about the demographic of what's being killed right now. And it's targeting them.
Well, I thank you so much. I mean, you're passionate about this. It is a crusade, and it's long overdue, because as you step back from this and look at the amount of attention it's getting, clearly it's not enough. No. So we thank you for your efforts. We hope they grow. We know they will. As I said, Retreat is going to have a big event in June to highlight a lot of this. And we here on the corner will do our small part by having more folks in the trenches, on the front lines, raising the alarm about fentanyl and its destruction. Jim, Marlyse, thank you for your time. Obviously our condolences for your loss, but your work, you're doing God's work, that's for sure. And thanks for sharing it with us.
Hey, Marlyse, get a hold of me. Families Against Fentanyl. Jim Rauh at Comcast.
I will. I signed your petition and donated.
Oh, you're super sweet. Can you tell me your contact information real quick?
Yeah.
You do? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
It's Marlyse Williams at iCloud.com. MARLYSE.
We're going to have links to your petitions and websites on the Behavioral Corner. Where this program, we will give you a heads up when it airs. You can share it. We hope you will. And everybody, always check the corner. We're trying to do some good stuff here. Thanks so much. Don't forget, the deal. Follow us on Facebook and give us a heads up if you like it. And we'll be back. We'll do more of these straight ahead. That's it. See you next time on the Behavioral Corner. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Retreat Behavioral Health has proudly been serving the community for over 10 years. Here at Retreat, we believe in the power of connection and quality care. We offer comprehensive, holistic, and compassionate treatment from industry-leading experts. Call 855-802-6600 or visit us at www.retreatbehavioralhealth.com to begin your journey today.
That's it for now. And make us a habit, hanging out at the Behavioral Corner. And when we're not hanging, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter on the Behavioral Corner.